Hello, 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 dear Angular developers, dear front-end web developers. Time to start our show. It's 4 p.m. in Central Europe. Have no idea what's time o'clock in your time zone. This is a truly globally distributed event. It's organized on behalf of Angular Oslo. Our dear speaker will be from Australia, and please write in the comments on YouTube Live which country are you from. So this new world of digital events really opens new opportunities. Just some super brief introductions first from my side. So as I mentioned, this is an event organized on behalf of Angular Oslo, Norway, but really like borders don't have any sense our times. And this is new start of the new season of our technical discussions. I'll do my best to set some cadence of these events, so to make them more often, maybe shorter like this time with only one speaker to keep you always engaged. And yes, basically that's it. Let me share a couple of banners. I have them. So first, there is a Twitter handle for Angular Oslo. If you wish to be a speaker on the next event like this, just ping me on my email, salnikov@gmail.com, or on Twitter. I'm webmaxter on the Twitter, and my direct message are open. We'll be super happy to hear from you and see from you. Couple more announcements. I encourage you to try Azure Static Web Apps service for your Angular applications. It's now free, it's in preview, and you'll be surprised how easy it's to build, deploy, and host your application on the global infrastructure. Literally, you just point to your GitHub repo branch, click deploy, and in a couple of minutes your application will be built and deployed. This is a short link to try this service. It's like getting started guide, and I'll post it in the comments. And if you do it, you are eligible to get a cool digital badge from Microsoft's Azure Heroes program. It's an interesting way to get your digital assets blockchain based. They will live on your mobile device. So instead of just saying too many words about this, just go and claim your digital badge or badger. You will see this cool animal. Good. Now it's time to introduce our dear speaker. Let me add him to the stream. And yep. Hello, Aliaksei.
Hey everyone, how you going? It's 12 midnight here. Good night.
Yes. Yes. Well, thanks for your commitment. It's midnight in Australia, in Sydney, where Aliaksei from. So it's a meeting of north of Europe and south and very east of the globe. And again, it would be cool to know from which country are you watching us. So what are you going to tell us about tonight?
Yeah, today it's actually time when sleepy people meet in awakened people, sleepy people of Sydney and Australia meeting all the other globe people from the globe who actually still awake. Because I know you guys, it's probably most of you, it's middle of the day or maybe middle of the day, or maybe evening for some of you. So yeah, it's great to meet you all from whatever you're coming from. And my name is Aliaksei, and today I'll talk to you about progressive state management with NGXS. So that's basically my topic for today.
Cool. I bet we'll have questions, and I encourage you, dear attendees of this online meetup, to prepare your questions, and you can write them to this YouTube live comments feed. And by the end of Aliaksei's session, he'll pick some questions to answer. And yeah, let's keep this interactive. This is not pre-recorded. This is completely live show. So yeah, let's go. Let me add your slides, and yeah, I'll remove myself, and please start.
All right, thank you guys for having me at your online meetup. Thank you, Maxim, for organizing that. And yeah, so today I'm talking about progressive state management with NGXS. If during the session any of you have any questions, please post them in a live chat. So I'm happy to answer any questions after my talk. So, but before I get started, let me introduce myself. So my name is Aliaksei. I am an Angular expert, mentor, and independent consultant, helping companies to adopt Angular in the most efficient way by applying solid architectures and the best practices. So today I am talking to you from Sydney, where I'm living for quite a long time, but originally I'm from the great country called Belarus. So I'm organizing Angular Minsk and Angular Sydney and front-end tech meetups. Also, I'm running an online and offline Angular workshops and teaching Angular at contage.dev. Also, I'm creator of Frontend Watch, which is an online resource where you can learn more about modern front-end frameworks and see the recent trends of modern front-end frameworks. So also recently I became a part of the NGXS core team. So who don't know, NGXS is a state management library for Angular. The NGXS core team is actually a global team, so of world-class professionals, as you can see on this slide. In total, NGXS core team have more than 80 plus years of software industry expertise. So yeah, we are quite a solid team here. And today I talk about progressive state management, and will introduce this concept, the progressive state management, right in the beginning of my talk. I will cover common problems with single-page applications and how to solve them. I won't focus on all the problems of single-page applications, just on a few specific ones, the ones related to this talk. Then I will introduce the reactive services approach, and I will show how to implement this approach in your applications. And then I will talk about state management in general and how to take your app from reactive services to next level using NGXS. So what is a progressive state management, you might wonder? Progressive state management is a development technique when you're progressively enhancing the functionality of the application state in a way it won't affecting the existing data flow and existing structure of your application. So basically, that's the definition of progressive state management. The idea here is to keep things simple if there is no real need to introduce an additional layers of complexity, because we don't always need to introduce any complexity in applications. I mean, unless there is a need. So initially you start with the reactive services and just use this approach until you find a need to bring a fully featured state management solution. You can go this path if you are developing a small to medium-sized application, but also it depends on your use case. And this approach might be very useful for those who are new to Angular and who are new to state management concepts. What is the most common problem we are facing when developing single-page applications using modern front-end frameworks like Angular? If you have any thoughts on that, please comment. And so yeah, one of those is a component communication, or basically the data flow. And that's what we're talking through this presentation today. So when component initiating a change, everything what rely on that change needs to be updated accordingly. We, as developers, need to solve that problem as efficient as possible. And based on exact use case, you might approach this problem in a different way. Normally, our app has a nested component structure like that. Components within the structure interact with each other, so this way the data flows around the application. So yeah, the components communication can get really crazy. Here's a simple example of filtering. Based on the search term on the filter component, the result component needs to be updated with a new data accordingly. So this is an example from actually Angular.io site. Probably some of you seen it if you used search functionality on the right top corner of the Angular.io. Sometimes we can solve that problem using input and output mechanism, which built in Angular, as probably most of us are aware of. But in case of deep nested components, which we probably have to avoid if we can, it could be quite tricky to achieve anyway. So in that case, it's hard to solve the component communication problem just by using input and output mechanism. It's also required a bit of boilerplate that we had to maintain going forward. So for many cases, it might not be the best approach. And here's another solution. Let's use reactive services. Reactive service is just a wrapper on top of RxJS behavior subject. I also like to call it Rx services. Using this approach, we can solve the component communication and data flow in our apps in a quite elegant and a simple way. So let's see the quick demo. This is the application I will demonstrate. I will be using it for demonstration purposes. It's just a simple counter application with a number of components. So we have here container component, parent component, child component, and little child component. So like a couple of components, and inside parent and child and little child, we can increase and decrease the counter. And as you can see in our container component, the value updated accordingly. So it's just a sum. So we're summarizing these three values. So let's see how this application implemented using just reactive services approach. So here is my folder services. I go into that, and here I have my service. So my data represented by an interface. So I have value 1, value 2, value 3. I have initial value, initial state. And so yeah, that's basically how the data shape looks like. And here is implementation of my service. So this service can set the value 1, set value 2, set value 3, and it knows how to summarize those values. So it's the code looking pretty simple, I guess, but there is a little bit something you need to know. So as you can see, this service extends Rx service. So Rx service comes from a package called Rx-service. It's an npm library. It's a very simple library with a number of methods. So as you can see here, there is no behavior subject inside my service. And the reason why, because actually my behavior subject comes from my Rx service. So it's a generic abstract class, which I'm extending in my service. So that's my behavior subject lives inside Rx service. So which my implementation of my service don't care at all. So what I do, I just call in those methods, set state, get state, or reset, or else I can subscribe for state $sign, which gives me the latest value from behavior subject. So yeah, so here I'm calling set state, which set value 1. Then I call in set state, which sets value 2, and then I call set state to set value 3. So I'm passing this. Oops. So I'm passing basically value 1 this way, and that's how it gets set within internals of Rx service. So let's see how we can consume this counter service in our components. So let's have a look in a child component. So it's just normal Angular component, and here, as you can see, I'm injecting the counter service, and also I'm declaring the value $sign observable number, so which will represent the number for this component. And in this particular case, it's value number 2. Oh, sorry, value 2, as you can see. So I'm just using map operator. So basically, yeah. So I'm calling state $sign, which returns me the latest value, and then I pipe in this because I'm just interested in this particular component. I'm just interested in a value 2. So yeah, I'm just using map operator here to get the value 2. And when I need to update the value 2, I just call in set value 2 and pass in the new value. So let's see how component template looks like. So here it is, 2 buttons. So one button's updating the value with -1, so which decreasing the number, and another update value button, another button calling update value, which increasing the value. And in order to display the actual value, the current value, so I'm just using value $sign and async pipe it within my template. So yeah, I don't have to subscribe because async pipe is doing it for me. As probably most of you know that. So async pipe. If you don't know, guys, just Google async pipe, Angular async pipe, to learn more about that. So yeah, that's how my child component looks like, and the parent component and the little child component, it's exactly the same idea here. I'm injecting the counter service and mapping the value I'm interested in this particular component, which is value 3. And template looks exactly pretty much same template here. So that's how we can. Oh yeah, let's take a look into our container component. Oops. So yeah, that's our container component. So here I'm just calling the sum function from a counter store. So I'm injecting a counter store here and just calling sum. And in order to display the sum, yeah, I'm using the same approach here. Sum $sign async pipe. So it gives me the latest value. So yeah, that's how implementation of this counter looks like. If you have any questions, guys, please comment, and I will review the questions and answer all the questions in the end of the presentation. So if you want to play around with Rx service, just install it into your, just install it from npm by running this command. And if you want to read more about it, just go on GitHub to this URL, so you can read a bit more on that. So let's talk about state management now and how it could be helpful to simplify component communication and data flow in our applications. So what's your favorite state management solution, I wonder? Comment in the chat and let us know. Here is the top 4 state management solutions for Angular: NGXS, NGRX, Akita, and yes, you can use MobX with Angular. I think you probably know at least one of those words I just mentioned. So, what are the benefits of state management? Using state management, we can simplify the component communication and implement the predictable data flow in our application. It make it easier to test and debug the application. You can apply same consistent practices across the teams within your organization, and as a result, your team might become more productive and ship new features faster, which is cool. So now let's talk about NGXS. NGXS actually, in my opinion, is fully qualified as a progressive state management solution for your Angular applications, and soon you will see why. So what are the features of NGXS? NGXS is simple to learn. It has a minimum boilerplate. NGXS is all about Angular thinking, or Angular way of doing things, as dependency injections and injection and declarators are the first-class citizens of NGXS. You can even use promise-based async operations or same for some edge cases if you need. Also, NGXS backed by a great community that you can reach out on a Slack if you have any questions or if you want to discuss anything. NGXS provide you with a global immutable data store. Components can dispatch actions to mutate the data. You can handle the actions once they dispatch. You can select pieces of the store data using selectors that expose the data in the form of observables. Selectors actually a very powerful concept of NGXS. And if you want to learn more about selectors, you can watch this talk called The Power of Selectors by Matthias Carinata. I will link this in the final slide. As you can see, NGXS gives you a predictable cycle, and it might be very beneficial to use NGXS in a complex applications with a crazy data flow. So, at some point, you might realize you had enough reactive services in your application, and so you decide to move away from it to a proper, fully featured state management solution. So, let's see how to convert our reactive services to NGXS. So that's another part of this application. It's exactly the same idea here, exactly same view. Nothing changed from a client-side perspective, the same counter, the same summary, all the same. So let's see how actually, what changed behind the scenes, how this implementation looks like in case of using NGXS. So here, let's take a look at the state folder. So as you can see, there is 3 files. So let's open the counter.state. So this is basically the state of our, that's how we define in the state of our application. You probably already remember the shape of the data. It stays exactly the same. Similar interface with 3 with the 3 variables, value 1, value 2, value 3, initial state. So then here I have this class called counter state. So that's basically that's the state of our application. So it has a number of functions: update value 1, update value 2, update value 3, and it's decorated with a state decorator. What else you want to know about it? Yeah, so in order to call these functions, we have to dispatch an actions, right? So when we dispatch an action value, update value 1, this function will be executed when we dispatch an action update value 2. This function will be executed, and so on. it's a good practice to define your actions within a separate class, like in this particular case. Sorry, did they set actions? Yeah, roll back. We're talking about actions now. So yeah, let's take a look into actions.ts. That's the file when we declare in our actions. Every action is represented by just by a normal class. So we can pass a payload in some cases, or in some cases when we don't need to pass any payload, we just using this empty constructor. That's how we define in actions. So there is a powerful concept, as I already mentioned, called selectors. So we're using selectors to select pieces of a state. And it's a good practice to keep our selectors in a separate file. So like in this particular case, I do have a selector which selecting value 1, value 2, and value 3. If you remember from previous example, let's take a look and recap it really quick. In order to select a piece of my state here, I had to actually subscribe for my look. Basically, I have to subscribe for observable. I have to refer to my state, right? So which represented by observable, and then I have to map it. That's how I was selecting the pieces of my store in case of using reactive services. So here, in case of NGXS, I'm using selectors instead. Also, you can put your business logic inside selectors. So here I do have my sum selector, which actually calculating the summary this way. So I'm just taking all 3 values and summarizing them. So yeah, you can put selectors is a good place to put your business logic. So let's see how we can consume state within our application, within our components. Let's take a look at the parent component. So we do have value $, which represents the value 1. It's very similar as from previous example. We also had a this similar value represented piece of store. And now here, instead of, okay, let's recap really quick. So yeah, value here gets translated to this selector. So we had to inject our store inside our component, and in order to update the value, we had to dispatch action. So we just dispatch and update value 1, and it get trigger as update value function in our store. And here in the template, can you see, guys, any change? Is there any difference between this template in case of NGXS and this template? It's exactly identical, so there is no change. So yeah, same idea here within our child component. We have we're using selector to get a piece of our store, and we call in dispatch when we need to update the value 2. Let's see the container component. So here we're using selector to get the sum. And so yeah, it's exactly the same template. No changes in this in container template as well. So it's all looking identical. I just referring to value $, which gives me the summary. So yeah, that's how implementation looks like. If you have, guys, any questions, please comment, and I'll review the questions in the end of the presentation. So NGXS has such a thing called plugins, and it's where the progressive part comes. The plugin system allows you to tap into the state changes lifecycle, so you're able to extend the core functionality of NGXS. Here is a list of plugins built by community that is currently available as a separate npm packages. So you can just simply npm install that into your application and to get benefit of it. If you want to learn more about NGXS plugin, check out this URL. Also, there is such thing called NGXS Labs. It's a separate organization on GitHub that exists to test out and to prototype new ideas and proof of concepts of NGXS. Something potentially may become a part of NGXS core functionality or an official plugin. There's lots of things available right now at NGXS Labs that you can play around. Some of the Labs plugins actually production ready. If you want to learn more about NGXS Labs, check out this URL. And now, as a last thing, I want to show you NGXS data plugin, which is part of the NGXS Labs. NGXS data is a persistent API based on repository pattern. It has a lot of great stuff in it. And probably the main benefit of using NGXS data is that you write even less boilerplate. So I guess as we as the developers don't like to write much boilerplate, right? And NGXS data help you to solve that. So now let's see how it looks like in action. So I'm referring to exactly similar application, counter, same number of components, same functionality, parent child, little child, component can increase or decrease the number, and container component displays the summary, the total sum. So let's see how it implemented. What stands behind it now? So yeah, let's check out the state folder, and boom, there's just one single file. So in the previous example, we had like 3 files. Now we had just one. So let's see what's inside. It's our is the state of our application with the exactly same shape, with the same number of properties, value 1, value 2, value 3, and yeah, so initial state here. That's our logic that stands behind our update, and so that's how we update in the state, right? In this particular case. So again, the same number of functions. Function update value 1, which updates value 1, value 2, update value 2, which updates value 2, and so on. Now we have to decorate our functions with data action. So in order to calculate the sum, now we're using this function. So we're not using selector here, we're just using this function, and it's marked, it's annotated as a computed attribute. So yeah, basically that's how we updating. This is how the update values logic looks like. Let's see how we actually can consume this code in our components. And yeah, that's our parent component. And you can see there is not much code here. All I do is just injecting the counter data state. That's all. And there is nothing wrong about it. It works, as you can see. So, but yeah, let's see the template. Is there any difference? So yeah, there is a little bit of different here. So as you see, I'm injecting the counter data state, and so the variable name called counter, public variable. It means I can use it in the template. So what we doing here, we're saying counter.update value. So that's how we're referring to these functions. So we're not dispatching actions in this particular case. We just saying, hey, I want to update value 1. And if you want to get the latest value, we referring to this variable counter dot snapshot dot value 1, which gives us the fresh the latest value 1. So that's how it looks like. It is like, would you call it less boilerplate? Yeah, I guess yes. So it's much less boilerplate in this particular case. Child component, exactly same idea, just injecting the counter data state, and we can consume functionality of our from our state this way within our components. And so let's see at our container component, exactly same idea here. I'm injecting the counter data state, and here I'm calling counter.sum to display the latest summary, which refers to this function in this particular case. So yeah, that's how NGXS data implementation looks like. If you want to learn more about NGXS data, check out this URL. If you want to learn even more about NGXS data, you have to check out this talk from Max Ivanov, the author of NGXS data library. I'll link it in the last slide. So yeah, what else we got here? Okay, I think that's the end of my presentation. Just want to summarize. We spoke about, actually, not yet. There is something more I want to show you. Sorry, guys. Let's see how the plugin. Let me show you how plugin system works within NGXS. I think we have additional 5 minutes for that. So let me show you that. So app module. So as I already mentioned, there is a thing called plugins. There's lots of plugins for NGXS. So here I'm using Logger plugin and DevTools plugin. So I just npm install those plugins into my application. And so I'm defining those NGXS Logger module within my app module and NGXS Redux DevTools plugin module. So let's see how it actually works. What benefits do I have using those plugins? So I call it developer experience plugins. And let's see what we get. So that's Logger plugin. Basically, in order to improve the developer experience of your application, if you use NGXS, you can use this Logger plugin, which actually shows you the changes, which you can dig into just by looking at in your console. You can explore what was changed. You can explore the current state this way. It might be helpful if you chasing a bug or something like that. However, some of you probably familiar with Redux DevTools plugin. It's a Chrome extension, which are available for Chrome browser. And actually, if you use an NGXS, you can use exactly same plugin. So if you install NGXS Redux DevTools plugin module, you can get all the benefits of Redux DevTools. Same idea here, just the developer experience thing, which might be helpful if you're chasing a bug. If you like the way how it looks like, there's lots of things in it. You can run travel here. You can replay. I mean, you can play around with this and see if it works for you. But yeah, that's another option if you want. Might be helpful for some. And yeah, so my data plugin installed here as well. NGXS data plugin as an just normal module. So I'm declaring it here, and this is how I can consume this NGXS data plugin in my application. So very, very simple. If you want, for example, you can pass those disabled properties to Logger plugin and DevTools plugin. So it means it will be disabled for production because you don't want this tab to be available for people on production. So yeah, you can just disable it this way, which is very handy. So yeah, I think that's all. Let's just summarize now. I talked today about progressive state management, how to approach data flow in Angular applications using reactive services, and then how to convert your reactive services to NGXS. Then we touch on NGXS plugins and NGXS labs, and we played around with NGXS data plugin, and I demonstrate you a few other plugins. So try it out and see if this approach is work for you. And I hope it will make you a happier Angular developer. So thank you. Follow me on Twitter if you want to hear more stuff like that. And if you want to keep learning more about Angular, you can subscribe to my mailing list at kuntlevich.dev/daily. And yeah, that's all what I wanted to talk to you today. All the links I'll share on Twitter. So you get all the links, everything I was talking to you, and I was demonstrating this demo application. You get it as well. It's on GitHub, but yeah, I'll post the links after we finish. So if you have any questions, guys, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Alexei. It was a really insightful session, very practical, and I love the sessions with tons of the demos. I encourage you all folks to follow Alexei on Twitter. You'll see this banner with his handle. And let me check. I believe we have some questions. So first, you convinced someone to try NGXS in the next project, and
Nice.
the question from Jürgen Husebin that you said that selectors and actions should be separated. Why is that?
Okay, so as you saw, there is in my code, I'm separating the selectors and actions, right? So it's like kind of separation of concerns. So you want again, if you think about NGXS, right? Like it's if you know CQRS pattern, so you can think of NGXS like. Think of CQRS when you think NGXS. So, and so we have comments and queries and CQRS, and in NGXS we have selectors and actions, right? So we have to separate them. It just, again, you can keep like technically, it's possible to keep everything in one file, right? We can write the whole entire application in one file. We can put like template in one file and class in one file and everything you want in one file. So if you write in something simple, if your application is just one component application, maybe you don't want to think about separation of concerns much. You can throw everything in one file, and if there is like 10 lines of code, that's fine. But if you build in something like enterprise level or complex application, if you not only is a single developer in a team, if there is like someone else working with you, so it's much better to separate concerns. So it will help you to communicate the implementation to other people easier. And if there is more files, it's easier to commit. So by one commit, say I want to introduce new action. I just use this action file and I put my new action and I'm done. And everyone in the team, they can see, hey, actually I was updating this section and I put this new action in my action file. So, but if you have everything in one file, and you have lots of commits, like by any small tiny change, or imagine me committed to one file and then 10 other developers committed to the same file, right? So imagine we have actions and selectors in one file. So I put my action, it's developer number 2 put another action, and then developer number 5 and 6 and 10, they put their selectors and now we have to merge all that. So think about this, about use cases like that. So yeah, if you can, just separate concerns if you're working in a big team. But if you want solo developer, if you're working on a small project, yeah, maybe you don't have to think about it much. That's my answer.
Yeah, fair enough. And the question from my side. So, what was your personal journey to NGXS? How did you end up with this one? So, if I understand, this is your default choice for state management in Angular currently, right?
Yes, that's right. So my journey starts a couple of years ago. The Austin McDaniel, the author of this library, he introduced this library back in 2018. So at this point, I was actually using NGRX, but I was not happy with boilerplate back in time. So I'm talking now, I'm talking about 2019, 2 years ago. And I decided to try out this new library, and I was so much happy about simplicity and that you don't have to write as much boilerplate as you had to write using NGRX. I think if you look at NGRX these days, they made a little bit of work to reduce the boilerplate but again, I'm talking 2 years ago, right? So the situation was quite different. And so once I saw the NGXS, I thought, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want. And also, I really love decorators and the Angular way of thinking. And NGXS, it's uses all those Angular kind of way of doing things, and that's also what I was really happy about. So yeah, simplicity, less boilerplate. That was my choice of NGXS, and I'm still using it as a state management of choice these days. If I need to bring state management into applications I'm working on, again, you don't have to bring state management always. You have to consider it. Maybe, I mean, there needs to be real need in state management for the particular application, so you decide to bring it in, because some applications, they just don't need state management at all. So you have to consider, like, you have to make this choice yourself.
Yep. Before selecting state management library, do you ever need this state management library at all, right? This is like
Absolutely. So I mean, I know like lots of projects in React, they just start from day zero. They bring Redux or whatever, it's called Redux, right? In React, and I saw this really simple. I was looking into some React project, very simple, that simple project, like really one component. As they bring Redux into this project, like why was like what's the point? So yeah, if you're, I mean, yeah, there is a list of things you have to in your application that needs to be ticked, which implies to actually bring the state management. Otherwise, you don't have to bring it in. Yeah, no point.
Fair enough. The next question from Matthew: how do you isolate side effects in NGXS?
Okay, so side effects. You basically write you talk to your backend. You write your HTTP calls within your actions. So I don't have any HTTP calls, but yeah, you can just write your calls in your actions, your functions within your state. So basically, imagine you don't have to, there is no such thing as how it's called in NGXS, right? There is a thing called, oh, I forget, effects, right? There is additional thing called effects. So here in NGXS, we don't have side effects. So, I mean, you just write your HTTP calls, like you just do everything. You can do it within an actions, so you don't have to think about like what like in yeah. I mean, how would you isolate? Like, why would you want to isolate? Like, can you, Matthew, if you're still here, can you clarify on that? Yeah, so effects model, there is no such a thing as an effects model, and in NGXS, there is no need in that.
Well, that means like you need to isolate effects if you want to achieve like 100% true, pure functional programming, right? So I believe if you say that there is no such a concept or such a need to isolate effects in NGXS, it's just differently architectured, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
That makes sense. Cool. So yes, this is basically all the questions we have so far, and yes, let's continue discussion on Aleksei's Twitter. So could you post your slides and
yes.
demo there?
I'll do.
Awesome. And then let's wrap up. This is one more explicit invitation from my side for you, dear attendees, to join this virtual stage. And yeah, I really want to have you as a speaker here. Just share your developer story and share your experience with particular libraries, or maybe you created something cool to simplify life of Angular and front-end developers in general. Yep, that's all, folks, and thank you, Aleksei, very much for finding time, and please have a good sleep. I know it's 1 a.m.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, this is how globally distributed events work. Thanks for your questions, folks. Thanks for watching us, and let's stay connected.
Thank you guys for having me. Yes, thanks for great questions. And thank you, Maxim, for organizing that event. So yeah, thanks a lot. And I'll share all the links in Twitter soon.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye.